what you emphasize is what you should measure. What you measure should impact winning. Yeah, I think it can enhance your team, build camaraderie, kind of build an edge if you're really trying to celebrate certain things. And you can show that these things are leading to winning. I think kids are really smart. Players are really smart. If you're throwing all this stuff at them, you better be able to show that, the effect or the impact that it's having on the outcome of a game.
Welcome to the JAMODI podcast. We are all surrounded by amazing coaches and leaders. So let's get an inside look at not just what they do, but how they do what they do. After all, becoming the best versions of ourselves is JAMODI, just a matter of doing it.
Today we're joined by the head boys basketball coach at the University School of Milwaukee, Andy Fitzgerald. Coach Fitzgerald has 14 years of coaching experience with 5 seasons as a head coach. His career record is 65 wins and 48 losses. He's also a coach and skills trainer with Chapman Basketball Academy for the past 3 years. From 2018 to 2022, Coach Fitzgerald did analytics for 5 different Division I teams and 1 professional team. This led him to write the book, Basketball Analytics 101, Methods and Tools to Effectively Incorporate Basketball Analytics for Any Team. He's led University School of Milwaukee to the second most wins in a year in school history, and playoff wins in 3 straight years for the first time since 2016. Before we hear from Coach, take a moment to subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media at JAMODI Podcast.
Coaches, we are all searching for ways to better evaluate players in order to give meaningful feedback. Over 15 years ago, I put together a test called the JAMODI Skill Rating. The JSR takes players through a series of tests involving basketball skill or athleticism, giving them 1 rating at the end. Their JSR rating will give you clarity on what needs to be discussed with players and parents on areas they need to focus on improving. I test our players at least 4 times each year. They're able to compete against each other, past players' scores, and most importantly, their past performances. If you'd like to start testing your athletes, email me at jamodipodcast@gmail.com for more information. Well, Coach, I want to thank you so much for giving up your time, coming on Talking Hoops with me. You and I don't have really any connection except for that I enjoy following you on Twitter. That's kind of how I found it, and what I love about the good side of the social media space is that you can connect with guys that from across the country that you really would never. And saw that you wrote a book, author of Basketball Analytics 101. Like, that's pretty cool. And just was interested in some of your views and thought this could be a fun hoops talk, man. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you for what you do. Always happy to talk basketball. But yeah, Twitter and social media, it can be used for good. And one of those reasons, basketball, that's the main reason I'm on social media. So much good stuff is shared and get to connect with people like yourself, like you said. It's always a pleasure to talk hoops and continue to grow the game and share ideas and bounce it off each other and just continue to get better.
So head coach at a high school in Milwaukee, former D2 player, and then coached in college for 11 years. How'd you get back to the high school level?
Yeah, career's a little bit interesting, the path. Like you said, played Division II basketball, a very average player, but knew I wanted to coach. So, from that point on, I just started the path, bounced around different colleges at that level. A lot of people like to say it's a grind at that level. I never view it as a grind, but it is tough in the sense that you're not making a lot of money and that sort of thing. So just by the nature, just bounced around a little bit across all levels. Started as an intern and grad assistant at Florida State. Worked a little bit at the Division III level. I ended up back at my alma mater for a couple years, UW Parkside. And then just continued to bounce around. Got to the junior college level as an assistant. And that kind of led me to my first head coaching job, which was at the College of Lake County, Grays Lake, Illinois, a Division II junior college. Great spot. Coached 2 years there, but unfortunately COVID hit at that point. So that kind of derailed that just for different reasons. Was able to work at UW Milwaukee for a year under Pat Baldwin as his special assistant, did a ton of analytics, advanced scouting, and various other projects. But unfortunately, he was let go maybe like 7 months after I got there. So at that time, I just had my first child. I'd been bouncing around. COVID was kind of causing some chaos. So I was like, okay, where can I find some stability? So university school is a great school, great place. I'd actually interviewed there prior and just didn't accept the job just because I was still at the college level. But something opened up where I could get working in the building and coach, and that's how I got there. So a little bit of family reasons, a little bit of just turmoil in the coaching world and the world in general. But I'm very happy where I'm at. We're one of the top academic schools in the state and really in the country. and love the kids I work with every day.
Nice. So how many years at the high school?
This will be my third, going into my third now.
Third year.
Yep, work in the building, coach the basketball team, and love being there.
That's awesome. And then tell me a little bit how the author of basketball or how basketball analytics 101 came about. Writing a book is hard to do. And I don't care what the subject matter is. The fact that you did that, like, that's pretty cool, man.
Well, I appreciate that. It was kind of just always a goal of mine, like reading, like writing. So the thought of the book kind of popped in my head really as a result of the work I was doing. So ever since like 2017, I kind of offered up my services to different colleges to essentially do their analytics. So that's really how I started, put together charts, formulas, and that sort of thing. This was kind of before a lot of the major companies came about that you see now, where they can, Division One programs and pro teams just kind of work through them. But essentially, I was that company, and I did this for free. So I did it for 5 or 6 Division One colleges. I did it for 2 pro teams. And as I was kind of doing that, I thought there was a way potentially to help coaches without a lot of resources kind of enhance their analytics or learn analytics. So the book is kind of geared towards keeping it very simple. What can you do with limited resources? What can you do to help your team win games? So it's all the stuff I did for those colleges. I talk about how I produce these things, the different formulas, explaining each thing. And it's all pretty common knowledge now. But the feedback that I get from the book is that it really helps in terms of, I don't have a staff of 8 coaches and someone I can dedicate primarily to this. I don't have Huddle Assist or Synergy or whatever it is. And there's still a ton of value and things you can do, and it's not going to overwhelm you or take up too much time. So that's kind of how that book came about. I just thought a great way to share. And for anyone listening, happy to send that out. Was never intended to make money off it or anything like that. I'm happy to share. And it's just something I'm passionate about. So
you wrote the book, and look at you now. Look at you. Look where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, I'm going to put you up maybe on the spot a little bit, but since
Sure.
you wrote the book, probably not. What are some of the top areas or top analytics that teams need to be focused on? And let's just start with a very broad, trying to win. If you're trying to win, here are the areas without knowing a team, the scheme, all those things. What do we need to focus on?
Yeah, so it's probably going to be level dependent a little bit.
Yes.
For me at the high school level, and I think at that level in general, I think turnovers is by far the biggest thing to look at. And really on both sides, if you're turning the ball over, it's hard to be efficient enough on offense and make enough shots just based on the level of player. Where if you're turning it over 15 to 20 times, you're just not getting enough attempts at the rim. So that turnover percentage, I think, is critical. And also just creating more possessions. So turning the ball over on defense is important. Effective field goal percentage is always going to be extremely important. I think at any level, you have to make enough threes, but you have to shoot at a high percentage. I think there was actually a study done, I don't know, this was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, where if you looked at those 2 stats combined and you won both of them, you won the game like 95% of the time.
So you win the
if you shoot it at a high level and win the turnover battle, you typically are going to win that game. I mean, you would have to get killed on the boards or the other teams just get into the foul line quite a bit, whatever it is, one of those scenarios. But to me, those are the biggest things. You can kind of look at it program dependent or team dependent. So for me, my offense is predicated on we have to touch the paint. That's the goal every possession. So we really track like paint points, and we also track points where it touches the paint and then produces the shot. Yeah, kick out, drive and kick is a big part of our offense. So, I think looking at your team is critical to understand what the most important analytics are. But obviously, Dean Oliver has the 4 factors out there. Those will always kind of carry the most weight, as they should. But then from there, do you have a philosophy? Do you want to really own the boards? Okay, your offensive rebounding percentage should be 35 to 40 if you want those extra possessions. So and that's all stuff that's commonly out there. But if I had to break it down to 2, it would be effective field goal percentage and turnover percentage, especially at the lower levels.
I like that. I think you kind of hit on something too. Is there's a lot of ways to win, and you have to really evaluate what works with your team. Like looking at UConn's team last year, their offense and their analytics that maybe that they were going for or really tracking, does that fit with your group? Because if not, then what is it? A square peg and round hole. Like you're trying to fit things together that don't. And so I think what we choose to track, what we choose to emphasize it better line up with how we play. So we're more up tempo offensively, really try to race in space, shoot, they get the best shot as fast as possible. And I know early on in the year that because of the pace we're running and the chances that we're trying to take, turnovers are going to be really high. If at the beginning of the year I had a standard of we want our turnovers to be 10 or less, that would, to me, that would bring down creativity in my group or even their level of courage to try things. It would also make us play slower because we'd be just more careful, fear of dropping below that number. So that to me isn't that as important. The rebounding thing, getting every third offensive rebound, that's a huge one, especially if early on in our season, because we're shooting such a high volume. I always tell them makes are going to be low. So we better, let's go get it. Let's go get it. So we send 5 or 4 to the glass. But I think that's where the trick is to find the analytics that fit the style of play.
And that's why percentages are so important. Because like you said, you're playing fast. So you're going to generate more possessions. So 15 turnovers for your team may not be that bad because you might generate 75, 80 possessions. So I think if you're looking at goals and different targets, it's always important to have them, in those percentages, because 12 turnovers for a high-paced team is going to be very different from a slow-paced team. So that's something to keep in mind too, like you said.
Man, I love that. That's a great point. Percentages over a number. And you can even take that, maybe it's a plus or a minus. Like we want to be 10 more overall shots than our opponent.
Yep.
Well, if I said we need to get to 70 shots, we can dictate that to a point. But what if they're we're in Texas where there's no shot clock? What if they're holding it? What if it's slow? What if their offensive possessions just aren't that aggressive? And so I think, but we can always try to be plus something. And I like that idea.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And you're going to have to play slower paced games, faster paced games. But analytics, if you have that in mind, it really just flows seamlessly. You just have to understand context behind everything. That's the biggest thing.
Can you emphasize everything, track everything, and try to hold them accountable to everything?
Absolutely not. You can track everything. Those teams, I would track a lot. And it's always kind of, you have to feel it out as a coach or as a staff, how much you want to give to players. I think that's, something you need to think about. If you have a more mature team, you can probably give them quite a bit more. And players are pretty smart. They'll understand rebounding percentage and effective field goal percentage. But if you're really getting into the minutia of analytics, they're probably just going to be overwhelmed by it. So I think if you create some goals and you use those as motivators, at least you can go back after a game and say, hey, we fell short here. That was probably a big reason why this game went the way it did. But I think as a staff, the more you can track, the more information, the more data you have, the better your decision making can be. And that's really all it's about. I know it's become such a buzzword sometimes in sports and especially in basketball, but all it is better information to help you make better decisions. It's not, we're just going to launch threes. It's okay, does this fit for us? Whatever. So the more information, the better. And I think it's just being smart about how much you give your players.
Coach, I think that's a great nugget because I've been in gyms or locker rooms where they have a big board and it looks really nice and it has each team that they're going to play and then pretty much all the categories of stats that will happen. And there's nothing wrong with that. So coaches that have that don't I love those things. Like anything that can make your locker room look nicer but I think when you have, and like you said, give them information, but when you have all that stuff on there, what are you actually trying to achieve by that? What does it actually show or teach your players? Are they able to decipher through all 12 categories?
Right.
And then sometimes you can even see like different colored dots or something, almost to say like we won because we had this many. I don't know. I used to run the Grinnell system or tried 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think I love the formula that they have. They have 5 things. And every time they hit 5 of those, they win like 98% of the time, 3 or 4. And so we would track those 5 things.
Okay.
There was something to that because we could, even in a loss, it was something that we could celebrate or we could see how close we were. But it was a very specific 5 things. It wasn't everything. So I think you're right on the money with that.
Yeah, I think having a core 4 or 5 things is great. And I think you really just have to stay committed to those things. I mean, it's not something you can talk about one time and then just expect players to kind of buy into that. I think you need to constantly visit it, preach it in practice, in your film sessions. Then I think it becomes a part of your identity as well.
No doubt. And that's a great point too. These are here are the analytics we're trying to track, and we're trying to win these battles. Oh, I said battle. I don't like that. We're trying to win this part of the game. You better be emphasizing that in practice.
Yep.
So if offensive rebounding is one of the 3, 4, 5 things that you are going to hold them accountable for or discuss after a game, it has to show up in how many, not just blockout drills you do, but if you're playing a small sided game, 3-on-3, 4-on-4, do they get 3 points for an offensive rebound? The
There you
moment
go.
that you put that type of score to that, the importance height jumps up. Different from, hey, don't forget, we want offensive rebounds, guys, crash. Okay. Like we're
Right.
just hoping at that point.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. What you emphasize is what you should measure. What you measure should impact winning. Yeah, I think it can enhance your team, build camaraderie, kind of build an edge if you're really trying to celebrate certain things. And you can show that these things are leading to winning. I think kids are really smart. Players are really smart. If you're throwing all this stuff at them, you better be able to show that, the effect or the impact that it's having on the outcome of a game.
And then I think the last thing is to use them as a tool, but don't let it be something that controls you. So as a guy that I like threes and frees, I want threes, layups, and free throws in that area. Rarely do we shoot. Like one of my favorite things to show the guys on with huddle is the shot chart. The other team's shot chart has dots all over that
Yep.
15-foot area. We have 1 or 2, and I'm just like, guys, like that's a great job of choosing the right shots. But if you have a guy that is talented in that area, can lift, can take one bounce, guy jumps back too far and he has space and he can shoot it, don't outlaw that. I think it was a story I heard from Dan Toney at Houston where after the game, when they would come into the locker room, the faces of the guys that took long twos were already, their pictures were up on the board. I'm not sure if that's true or not. It's just something I
Yeah,
heard. But I'm like, that's
funny.
extreme. And I think,
Oh, yeah.
so I'm not a fan of outlawing, but using that as a tool to help them to see and maybe to get on board with what we believe as coaches.
Yeah, and absolutely. And some of that stuff I talk about in my book is kind of that mid-range shot. It's hard to have a rule where you just can't shoot it. I mean, there's going to be times, and you have to think about defensively too. They're thinking analytic minded. They're not going to
Yep.
just let you shoot threes. They're not going to let you just get to the basket, get it right in the post, that sort of thing. So there's times, end of clock. I know we don't have a shot clock either, so there's not as many of those. But um, late game, you just need the ball in your best player's hands, and any bucket is huge. Yeah, you're gonna live with that shot. So everything's situational, and like you said, kind of dependent on the players you have.
I've thought about that a little bit. Like defensively, what if your standard was, all right, guys, we're going to close off the shot, meaning we're going to get to that shooting shoulder so fast, and you have to make him put it on the floor. But when he does, you take off for a sprint straight ahead of him in his path to the paint. Even if you give up 4 or 5 feet, just get there and
Yeah,
turn, and so your chest is square. And guys, if he pulls up and shoots a 2, I'm not mad at you.
right.
Maybe
You live with
contest
that.
late if you can, but block him out. I don't know. I think that's an interesting because we want to stop the 3, but then
Right.
there is this kind of, they have a little bit of an advantage, and we try to get in their hip and try to push them
Hmm.
out. Why? Why not just run back, play
Yeah,
it really soft, and
lead them to a
shoot that
spot.
mid range? And maybe there's conflict between the coach and the player at that point. Like, coach, I'm wide open from 13 feet, but
Yeah,
we want that overall. I don't know
we've
that.
been thinking about it. Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I don't know. We may not be too far off from that. I mean, every team, our ball screen coverages, everything is trying to influence that, like you said, 13 to 17-foot shot. So it may not be far away from teams doing, something very similar.
Grapevine Faith Christian School started it.
Yeah.
We
Hey,
started.
you can
They
name it.
don't
That's
guard us
yours.
outside the paint and inside the 3-point line.
I love it.
I don't
That's
know,
great.
Coach. Want to hear a little bit about kind of your day, and because with coaches and all of the things that we have going on throughout, I think our habits are really important. Set us up for success. What are some of your daily habits?
Yeah, like you said, habit, they're so important. And, we stress it with our players. So I think as a coach, you better have some habits too. I have two young kids, wife at home. So habits are just extremely important. Some of the things that I do personally, um, I try to plan my next day, like the night before or the day prior. I think that just really helps with hitting the ground running. You get in the office, you're not having to get situated and take 20, 30 minutes to know what you're doing that day. I like to get in. I already know the first two, three things I'm going to be doing that day. I think that's important to not only setting it up, your day off to a good tone, but you can just be so much more efficient. I think at the end of the day, you know, at the high school level, we're working a 9 to 5 or whatever those hours are, and then going out to coach. So there's just a lot to juggle. So I need to be really prepared in those early hours. Another habit, I love to read. So like I said, I have two kids under 3, so it's a little bit harder, but I commit to 30 minutes a day.
Mm,
That may not sound a lot, but it definitely adds up over time. I think
yeah.
that's like 182 hours or so over the course of the year. And I think if you heard that number, that stands out. So constantly learning, I think, is important. So finding time for that, and oftentimes that's either really early in the morning or late at night. But I think, like I said, constantly learning, seeing what's out there. It could be fiction, nonfiction, whatever. Just keep enhancing your own knowledge. Another habit, and I stole this right from Rick Pitino. I think it's in one of his books. He talked about doing the things you don't enjoy as much, like
Eating the
early in
frog.
your day. Yeah, like get them over with. So
Yeah.
for me, I'm not a big meeting person, and I absolutely despise making phone calls. I'm a millennial. Just text me, that sort of thing. So obviously, you're gonna have to make phone calls. So I try to knock those out in the morning. You're not thinking about them, you know, longer than you need to. Get them over with, get on with your day, I think is important. And then just another daily habit, is I walk every day. I try to work out most days, but if nothing else, get a walk in. Oftentimes, not even with a podcast in, I think you can do your best thinking. Just kind of be out there,
Mm.
reflect a little bit. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll listen to plenty of podcasts and music, but sometimes just being your own thoughts, I think is really important. But I think just having a routine is important, especially in the basketball season. And that's a habit I try to have of, okay, I'm doing these things in this order, whatever it might be. Because as a coach, you better be on your game. You can't have bad days as a head coach with around your team. So those habits are extremely important, especially if you're going to be, preaching that and hoping your players buy into some of those habits as well. So those are some of the main ones that I try to incorporate daily in my life.
Yeah, great point. I think we need to be the example for our players with our habits. And that doesn't mean we all have to be in incredible shape, chiseled abs to, because that's not going to happen. But I do think that the way that the nutrition that we take in, how we're prepared because of the sleep that we had, what we hydrate with throughout the day, I do think that matters, and more is caught than taught. And so we want to be showing that off to our players. You had a great point about the reading 30 minutes a day and how that the compound effect of that over time really adds up. And the truth is most of us have 30 minutes in a day. If we really looked at yesterday and we marked down how we could, if we could mark down how we spent it all and how much time we were on our phones, we would have that 30 minutes. One of my former players, Jack Borman, I'll give his name. He had this. He was like, "Coach, what do you think about this quote?" And he said, "Is it one day or is it day one?" And I was like, "Man, I really like that. Like, that's a good shirt, Jack."
Yeah, there you
But
go.
with reading, with anything, with working out, with anything, like, are you gonna do it one day or is today day one? And
Right.
so yesterday I missed my reading time. I try to do about 30 minutes as well as being in the Word a little bit. And
Hmm.
so that I missed it yesterday. Just like your diet, just like anything else, you can say, screw it. Like, I'm done, I messed up. Or just get started again tomorrow. Like, make tomorrow day one and keep going. I love that idea.
Yeah. So I don't know. I listen to a lot of like Kevin Eastman. I don't know if you're familiar with him,
Oh, yeah.
coaching the NBA. I think most coaches are. He always likes to say like there is a 4:30 a.m. I don't wake up at 4:30, but I mean, yeah, if you have to get up 30 minutes earlier to get
Yeah.
your exercise in or whatever, like there's time. You just gotta, like you said, make it a priority and get after it.
And I do think that getting up early, it may be natural for some people. It's not for me. If I had to choose, I'd like to wake up when I want to wake up.
Yeah.
And our dogs, unfortunately now our dogs have their timers about 5:30. So even on a
Okay.
Saturday or a Sunday,
Yeah.
they're yapping, but I can go lay back down. But with our morning workouts right now, some guys are trying to beat me up to the gym.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll get up there around 5:45, and I don't want them there before me. So I've been getting up at 5, and
Okay.
over time, it's been getting easier and easier. But I
Oh,
think one
yeah.
of the big things is my nutrition getting more on point and my caffeine intake getting lower and lower earlier in the day. I'm telling you, those two things have made when I wake up, maybe I'm groggy for a second,
Mhm.
but then I'm pretty open. I'm ready to go. That used to be something that, like, for hours, I would feel like a truck just hit me. I think we got to really acknowledge or realize how important it is what we're putting in our mouth, and things like caffeine, how late in the day we're using those. That's been a game changer for me.
Yeah. No, I love that. And kind of speaks to what I'm trying to do this year, trying to just eliminate, a lot of the energy drinks, the late night meals. No, it's morning time. We're good. I
No,
got one
thanks.
over here
Yeah.
too. Um, but just as the season goes, I'm in the gym till 7:30 some nights. I should not be doing some of that stuff at that hour. So, but yeah, back to the main point. I think any habit you're trying to build, and you just got to get started. And like you said, it definitely gets easier over time, and kind of just becomes ingrained who you are. I like to periodically fast and do different things. And yeah, first couple of days tough, but then it just kind of becomes your daily routine, and you really don't even think about it anymore.
Yep. The quiet piece is really interesting. Who was it that said you have to try it? Well, I was listening to a coach, and he said, no, Ryan Holiday, the stoic guy. He was like,
Yep.
check
Yep.
when you go into a Chipotle and there's a long line, do you have to be on your phone, or can you just stand there and with your own thoughts? And I like paused. It's like, I don't remember the last time I didn't. In fact, when I'm going into a grocery store or into a store, I start a video and put my headphones in so that I've got it going the whole time. I do feel like silence or quiet is almost a thing that I've pushed out of my life. And I wonder whether it's maybe with prayer, or also just, man, thinking about my players and my team. How often do we give our brain time just to
Yep.
filter through some stuff? I don't think I'm very good at that.
Yeah. Like I said, it's not every day that I'm not going to have a podcast or a video on, but man, sometimes just being outside and just kind of taking it all in. I think for me personally, I'm able to kind of think maybe differently, and some of the best ideas or just thoughts that I can have in a certain day happens during that time. So I really enjoy it.
With your experience with analytics and kind of the mind you have for that, I'm excited to hear about your favorite style of play, or favorite style to teach, and to see just kind of how that fits in to your style.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you and I are probably in pretty close agreement in terms of style of play. Analytics, it kind of drives everything. For me, what I like to teach, I think, is kind of coincides with how I think players enjoy the game of basketball. So I think playing fast, playing conceptual basketball is not only a fun way to teach, but I think the players really enjoy it. And in my 5 years as a head coach, I think any player that has played for me would probably echo that. They really enjoy this style. So we focus largely just on spacing, concepts, and playing extremely fast. So I'm a two-side fast break person, largely into 5 out. We're going to utilize the dunker spot a little bit this year just to give our guys more room to drive. But yeah, playoff concepts, react to the ball, have certain triggers or things in your offense where if you do break down, but play extremely quick. Try to get the ball out of the basket in less than 1 second, get it across half court in under 4 seconds. Find that big advantage shot early. If not, we're attacking the paint and we're just playing from there. Drive, kick, dribble, handoff, no set patterns. Now we'll have some sets to get your best players certain
Yeah.
things in different
Dead
situations,
balls.
but
Yeah.
largely we're playing unscripted basketball, and players love that. They love that style of play. I always say you have freedom on offense. Now we may have to rein you in a little bit, a shot selection, whatever. But I'd rather start there with that freedom, allow for creativity. And it's just hard to scout as well. I think if there's no pattern or certain things that are dead giveaways. If you pass it to the wing here, they're going to do this back screen, down screen. It's just harder to scout. And then I think your players become a better all around basketball players and are able to read different scenarios, situations, make the right decisions. So that's the big thing. Analytics is a driver behind that. Like you said, you're really trying to get those paint touches. That's going to be the highest value points per shot. You're more likely to get fouled in the paint. You're creating help and closeout on drive and kick. So we want obviously a lot of set threes. Obviously the NBA, they're trying to get corner threes. At our level, we're trying to get any open three primarily. But that's a huge driver in what we do. So that's the main style that I like to coach. And I think the main reason is that freedom, creativity, letting players kind of figure it out. In terms of half court, like I said, we do a lot of 5-out. I think that allows for different options.
5-out like this, or are you 5-out like that?
More like that.
You got more like that.
Yeah.
So you've got your corners.
Oh yeah.
You've got your slots still, or your alleys, and then you've got your stretch. So David, Doug Novak, Mark Cassio.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love their stuff. All the stuff they do with protection plans and that's again how we started this conversation, just what's available online. Some of those coaches have had so much impact and the value that they put out. So I'm in similar thinking to that. Yeah, we'll go deep corners initially. I call them the 45s, but yeah, like that slot area. And then we'll utilize the top spot for our 5-guy, our 5-man. But yeah, interchangeable for the most part. Our best player is taller post players, so we get a little creative with that. But primarily, get to your spots, try to get shooters to the corners or whoever's the wing first down, get hot, wide, all the way deep to the corner, and play out of that. We'll take quick shots. Sometimes parents are like, "Ooh, do you like that shot?" I'm like, "Yes, I love that shot." We didn't have a chance to turn it over. Open. It's a big advantage shot. The defense is
the longer you have the ball, it's like there's a turnover meter that's going up. The longer I have it, the turnover meter. Man, why are our turnovers so low? We shoot it before we lose it. Like that's it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Now there's times you're going to want to reverse it. You're going against a set defense, but definitely in more of the free flowing aspect of the game, we'll take any big advantage 3. If we can't find that early, we're hunting the paint, driving kick, get into a handoff, we'll ball screen some, and just 0.5 basketball is the common term. I don't think players really they're not thinking 0.5 in their head, but we just want to make quick decisions, and we preach that quite a bit.
That's what.
And then we're aggressive on the boards as well.
Right. How do you get the guys? Because everybody says they want to play fast. If you go into a gym and you ask them do you want to play slow or fast, or raise their hands or whatever, majority will say fast. But then once you start to do it and they realize really how hard it is, the amount of not just physically how in shape you have to be. Because in a 32, one thing I've noticed, is that in a 32-minute game, even running and gunning like we tried to do, kids just don't get that tired. Like there's natural stops in it, So the idea that if you're going to run and gun, you've got to run them into the ground at the beginning of the year to build the base or whatever. I don't know. I think through practice and through games early on in the season, we build our legs. So I've kind of gone away from like a boot camp or an insane week, or I'm going to make them throw up for I don't know. I'd rather them get better at what we're trying to do, play some small-sided games, and then get up and down, getting in shape that way. So I don't think they don't realize how hard it is to consistently run deep to those corners, to not stop short, and the amount of structure that it actually takes to do it successfully. Because running and gunning, if there's no order, you're going to just run into each other, and there's going to be no gaps or advantages, like you said. So what are some of the things you do to get them just running harder and then also being organized?
Yeah, we do so many transition things. Every practice, I would say 30 minutes is just transition stuff. And you almost trick your players into conditioning that way. Yeah. I mean, they're playing, right? But they're not, we have to run lines. So I'm very similar to you in that regard. We almost never condition in that sort of fashion. We play so much 5-on-5. We do so many up and down transition drills, and we do a ton of 4-minute games is what I call them. I think the longest you'll ever go in a game is probably about 4 minutes without some sort of stoppage. Obviously, that's going to vary quite a bit, but
that's rare right there. But
that's probably on the long end by quite a bit actually. But if you can play hard for 4 minutes, you're going to be fine. So that's what I try to essentially trick our guys into figuring out. But it all starts with spacing. That's the one thing we harp on. The first week of practice, we'll put X's on the floor, deep corners, those types, and then the top and dunker positions. And those are the spots we fill. And we talk about if you're the first one down the floor on either side, you're getting to those corners. As guys kind of figure out their strengths or know their strengths, we tend to get our shooters to those spots more just because you get so many shots there. But man, get wide, sprint the floor, look back right before you get to half court. If the ball's not coming, get to that corner, space it out. Obviously, the ball is coming. We try to kick it ahead when we can, try to get it across when we can. But if not, we're next guys sprint to that 45 or that trail spot, and we're playing there. Once they kind of get an understanding of that, and they understand that they're just breaking out to those spots as quickly as possible, that's kind of the starting point of getting that going. The things you might have to talk about is, okay, what if there's too many guys on this side? So we might just go right into a stagger action, or we might just push a guy through. That becomes pretty natural. You can have calls for them if you have higher level players, or the more you do it, they're going to understand, oh, there's 3 guys over here. There's only really 2 spots. Let me just cut through. Let me 45 cut across. Let's stagger for the corner. Let's flare, whatever we can do. And that's all as a result of doing those transition drills. So I have like 5 or 6 different ones just to change it up. But we're constantly emphasizing spacing, sprinting the floor. And what's great about that is you're also working on your transition defense, which
No doubt.
to me, a huge part of the game is that transition. And really, you can win or lose a game there, I would say, either direction. So, yeah, it's kind of just training your players in that regard, having certain triggers, but players buy into that. They really enjoy it. And they're willing to run hard because they might get an open shot. And something we do in film is I love to show, so I call it like a drive the 45. We kick it ahead. The guy catches it kind of in that wing slot area, drives to the basket. Usually that's the result of guys sprinting to the corners. Mm-hmm. So in film, I'm calling out the guy that's sprinting to the corner, that sort of thing. And once they see that, there's buy-in. They're doing it for their teammates. Oftentimes, the next time down, you're going to get a driving kick. Guys are touching the ball. They're all a part of it. So it's a good philosophy. It works for us. I kind of go back to it's a fun way to play. And I will say my first year at the high school level, the team I took over was so trained to run half-court offense and call a play that my point guard, who was a very talented player, early in the season was like, Coach, I need a play. Like, I don't know what to do. So we had to go back and teach it a little bit more. But once you get past that initial, I think you have to also be okay with taking quick shots, and your players need to know that. So if you're stressing playing fast and then you get mad if, you take a quick 3, okay, now players are like, he doesn't want us to play fast then. So, allowing those shots and encouraging those shots within the right structure and that sort of thing, I think is important from the player's perspective.
Man, Coach, so many good nuggets there. We definitely have to separate time and quality of shot. Those two things, in my opinion, don't go together. Like the turnover, like the longer you have it, the better shot. No, the longer you have it, the higher percentage or rate of turnover. It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Yep.
Just because I take away quick. Like we're not even going to talk about shooting. And I know you and I are discussing quick shots, so that makes sense. But with them, it's not even, we want quick shots. We want the best shot as fast as possible. So when you and then that goes back to shot selection, like you said, everybody has to know what best shot means. So you got to kind of, in my opinion, outlaw those vague terms. We want good shots. We want okay shots. Hey, only the best now. What does that mean? That other times you're okay with bad? Like, so if you take care of shot selection, and then you talk about get them out of the mode of what they've been hearing their whole life, which is the longer you have the possession, the longer you have the ball, the higher quality of shots you get. I disagree with that. I think early, especially if you're playing fast in transition, you're getting to dangerous spots on the floor, which are the deep corners first, which you got to appeal, in my opinion, you got to appeal to their selfishness a little bit with that. Hey guys, why do we need to get to the deep corners? So we can shoot open threes. Yes. If you run hard and you get there, that's where open threes come from. Because your defender is more likely to be pulled towards the midline when you get deep like that. So like use a little bit of that. What do they want to do the most? They want to shoot. Use that. Get to the corners. That's where the best shooters go, and that's where the most shots come from. But then making sure that they understand if you take 0 dribbles or zero passes, but you can load up and shoot that 3 because that guy, nobody stops you because it's so fast, or that guy's back 8 feet. That's the best shot as fast as possible.
Absolutely.
One shot, move it, slice, and you attack, kick three. It was only 2 passes. It was 8 seconds. That's the best shot. And then I think you nailed it too with your best shooters tend to get to the corners. So many times in a positionless style of play, I think the worry is, what if my best players aren't touching the ball as much as they need to, or that my worst guys are shooting it more? In my opinion, of 11 years of playing this way, that just doesn't happen. There's a hierarchy that develops with your guys. The ones that would typically be your primary, your point guards, they bring it up the most. Not that like we tell anybody to, they're just around it. It just happens. The guys that like to shoot and want to attack from that stretch or 45, they're typically your playmakers. And then, you know, if you got guys that don't run, the easiest way is the bench, but I'd like to get to their heart a little bit more and find another way than that, even though Bobby Knight said it's the best motivator. I don't know. But I think it's just some really fun things with playing fast that maybe are some worries early on for people, but I just think I've seen the opposite happen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there's going to be times early in practice you're like, oh man, can we play fast? And your ball is hitting off the wall, you're throwing it across court, all that type of stuff. But if you're committed to it, like you said, eventually that hierarchy is going to develop. Players are going to understand. They're going to run for one another because they know they're going to get, you know, a good look or be able to attack the basket. And as you were talking, one of the things I love to do is anytime we'll like pass up an early advantage three, transition, one pass, whatever, I like to kind of show those clips and say, here's the shot we got, how it would compare to this open shot. And almost every time, you know, we're not getting that quality shot. And sometimes I actually have to show parents that type of stuff because they're like, oh, you guys just, you know, shoot so many threes. But it's like, if we're passing it around, you know, we're not able to break our guy down off the dribble, we're going to end up with a tough shot. Why not take this open shot with a good shooter against a disorganized defense? We, like you said, we don't have time to turn it over. I'll take my chances on that shot because I don't know if we're going to get that shot once the defense is back and set. That's kind of how I view it.
Man, Coach, I don't mean to cut you off. That's just you're getting me excited here. I think so many times we do send message to our parents. We send messages to our parents in games, but it's for the negative things. I told you not to do that. Parent, you know, and my parents, did you hear what I just said? Like, that's not what we're guys. We have to block out. We have to block. Like, and yes, those are things. Maybe I don't know. The block out thing. If you're talking about that, excuse me, in a game, you know, you got to go back in time and you got to practice it or emphasize it there. If it's just like this epiphany, oh, hey, by the way, hey, make sure we block out. Okay, that's too late. Same with culture. If effort and attitude are tanking in a game, it's just not that moment that it happened. It's been happening. But with the parents, I think that is a way for you to maybe bring them in to what the vision is and what they can be telling their kids when they're on the way home by saying things like, keep shooting it, fellas. That's beautiful. Like encouraging the try of what they're doing. Golly, I had another one. Like this is where it was a dead ball and I thought we had passed up 3 or 4 looks. Like I am completely against passing up open. We don't pass up open. We take open. We take our 7, which is what we call that. And so I just yelled out because I'm not very funny, and I don't think our parents rarely think I'm funny. And but I yelled out, guys, listen, I would have shot it 4 times by now. Like I'm just letting you know that. Like you're missing that. And I did get some chuckles, but the big thing I want our players to know that I don't want them to pass up. They have the freedom to shoot the open ones, but to our parents too, like we're always going to err on the side of being too aggressive, more courageous. There's no such thing as I try to take away a little bit of the time score momentum. I try to turn a blind eye to that because if we want to run and gun and we want to shoot with courage, then you miss 8 in a row. You better take that 9th one if it's a 7 for us. But you're going to hear the stop shooting threes.
Yep.
I agree with you if they're 6s, if they're contested. I disagree with you. So that's why if I feel that tension in the room, I'll send the message to everybody that we are 100% okay with what is happening on the floor right now. I don't know if that helps a lot or not, but and then another thing I think you can do is to keep your credibility, because you said something like early on, you may doubt, man, can we do this? The ball is flying. We're shooting 11% from three. Those moments happen.
Oh yeah.
So to keep your credibility with your team, with your parents, I think you have to almost be a prophet and tell them that that's going to happen. So every parent meeting, when we're on with my junior high parents, the varsity parents, I'll say, listen, here's what I know what's going to happen is at the beginning of the year, our turnovers are going to be really high and our
Yep.
shooting percentage is going to be really low. But parents,
Yep.
don't worry. It's going to flip. And when it flips, November, December, hopefully not January at
Yeah.
that, that's far, but it will flip. How do I know this? I've been seeing it happen for 14 years of running and gunning. So when it's happening during the year and they're like, golly, we're just not making shots. Well, parents, remember, like we talked about this, are they taking them? It's what Doug Novak said. It's not that I have to make it, it's that I have to take it. And we want that type of mentality developed. In my opinion, the only way is to let it fly.
Yeah. I'm such similar minded. Um,
I thought so, Coach, from your Twitter post.
oh
That's
yeah,
what.
absolutely. Like one of our rules is if you have a big advantage three, like you have to take it. And I don't like saying the word have to take it, but essentially our rule is like if you're open, you have to shoot it. We're
Yeah.
working to get that shot. And yeah, like I said, in the first year taking over a team that was so structured before, I had to kind of explain that to my parents, my players, my AD. It's like early on, like it might
call.
not be great.
Yeah.
Like you said, we may be turning it over. But yeah, there's definitely that time, a month or whatever into the season where it just starts to click. Now, more reps, guys are shooting it better in general, or players. But just the concepts are now in, and you're able to kind of see it come together. So it's a little bit of a stick with me for a little bit. But I think in 5 years as a head coach, I've maybe told a player on 2 occasions that was a bad shot. Like it just doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
I'm constantly on the sideline. Like if a shot doesn't go in, but it's a great shot, great shot, great shot. Like keep taking that. It's a mentality that you have to get into your players' heads. Not only that's okay to take that shot, but that's a great shot for us. And you're not going to make every shot, but that's what we want. On the average possession. So, and that builds confidence as well. Players like that, they all want to shoot the basketball. So,
Yeah.
If you generate those shots, that's huge.
When you have the structure of what you want to do and they understand the concepts, and shot selection, in my opinion, has to be day one of the year. Before we even do any fun two-ball drills, we're going to talk about this, and we're all going to get on the same page, and we're going to talk the same way about this. So from my best shooter to little Timmy, they both understand what the scale is. So you have to get that down. Then you said something like they don't always have to take it. I completely agree. And to all of the guys, they don't have to take the open shot. They have to do what they see. And maybe they see something different. And from my sideline view, I see it another way.
Right.
So they have to do what they see. But if they don't take it, even because they don't have to, but if they don't, I think that's where we come in. Should they have taken it? And if they should have taken it, why are they not? And then it comes down to maybe they saw something different. No problem. Keep being aggressive. And I think this is the question is, hey, I saw that you didn't take that shot. Tell me why. And then if it's, I missed a couple, hold on a second. You and I don't believe that way. If you just missed 3 or 4, what's about to happen, Mason? Well, and then he knows I'm about to go off. I'm about to get hot. You shoot to get hot, and then you shoot to stay hot, Mason.
Yeah.
So we're not going to turn that one down, are we? And you do it with a smile on your face, but it's not, why aren't you shooting it? Like, golly, like, no. Find out the why behind it. Because if he knows he should take it and he's not, we really want to get to the heart of that. And if it is a confidence issue, then that's where we have to remind him about his preparation, the time that he's put in, and instill that belief in that moment. Remind him of how great he is and how that's the best thing for our team. But I love your idea, though, that you don't have to take it, but we got to figure out why they're not.
Yeah. No, at the end of the day, we definitely want to get to the point where any big advantage three, that ball is going up. But yeah, worst comes to worst, if you're not going to shoot it, all right, understanding like you're going into a quick handoff, whatever. But yeah, confidence is so important in this game. So I think giving them the freedom first and foremost, building that confidence with reps in practice and in your live play. I don't think I've ever had a scenario where players like, oh, I'm scared to shoot this or anything like that. So building in that kind of shooting license, and all these coaches have green light shooting, and you have to prove to me that you can make 30%. Well, if they don't get that in their contests or drills early on, I don't know if they're ever going to have the confidence again
Yep.
to shoot it.
Yep.
Your good shooters are going to reach that goal. They're going to be fine. But people will argue, why do you want this guy shooting it? It's a big advantage three. And if you can have 3 or 4 shooters out there, typically it's going to be coming from a shooter. But again, it's getting that best shot you can get before all the other stuff we talked about can possibly happen. But yeah, confidence, you're going to have to instill that in your players and preach that's a good shot and encourage them from the sideline and, hey, good shot, next one's going in, that sort of thing. Again, to build that mentality that you're looking for out there.
I want the illusion of that we'll all shoot. And I want the other team to think that each guy is capable. But if they were really to break down all of our games or to look at everything, they would see that there is a huge difference in volume and a huge difference in shooting percentage within our shooters, but they are all allowed. And if you're not, then you better get to that dunker spot, or you just might not be on the floor very much for the varsity level. Sub-varsities, they all get to shoot threes no matter what. And I'm convinced that our JBs could probably win a lot more games if we didn't allow them to do that, because we are the king of shooting 30 more shots than our opponent and losing by 10. But I'd rather them take it and learn what that feels like to take the open or the big advantage shot.
Like two things come to mind. I had a player my first year at the high school level, never was allowed to shoot threes, never even a thought. And, I was like, you're allowed to shoot, you can shoot. And by the end of the year, he was like 40% three. And also, so many times people will tell you, why is a 25% 3-point shooter taking that shot? Well, if they're open and it's big advantage, they're probably a 35% shooter for that shot. So if you're getting quality looks, I think that enhances your percentage a little bit as well. So, we don't want to take contested shots when you're a 20% 3-point shooter. But if you can make it at 32, 33 when you're open, that's still almost a point per possession. We're going to take that really anytime, unless we're in the half court, we're trying to drive and kick, all that type of stuff. So, it just goes back to what you're preaching to your players and them understanding your philosophy on shot selection and feeling confident in it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I was a shooter myself, streaky at times. I know that's a bad term sometimes, but confidence was usually like a big factor behind that. Well, I'm feeling good today. Coach is telling me to let it fly. Maybe 4 or 5 of them go in that night. So I think that's a big part of a coaching staff as well to, build confidence in your players.
Man, 2 things that you said made me think about shooting percentage. So we on average are in the 30 to 40 attempts a game range for threes. I love us to be in the these I'm fine with if we get that many up in a 32-minute game. I've always felt like if we get to the almost borderline 60, which has happened, we may not be getting to the paint or to the rim enough. And so I don't, that can tip too much, but it's hard to get there. So it's never anything where I'm like, guys, I think we're close. I don't freak out that much. But a lot of coaches will ask me, like, man, you're shooting 43s a game. What's your shooting percentage? I don't care.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't really care about that side of it. I want is our speed and our flow and our spacing, is the game being played the way that we like it to be played. And if we are shooting a large number of 7s, which would be our open, in rhythm, within our range 3s, and 6s, which is contested 3, for some of our better shooters, if their preparation's fast and they can get it out of their hand as that hand's coming up, we still count it as 7, even though to the eye, or unless you pause film, it looks like a 6. But we will take we want that volume, the 7s volume, to be up. If I was worried about shooting percentage, then, like you said, your best shooters would be the only ones shooting. And people say, well, doesn't that make sense? To me, no. If space is what we want and space is what we're creating, and when we attack the world and we make that ball work, we're creating those long closeout 3s or open. That's the goal of offense isn't to score. The goal of offense is to create the 7, 8, or a 9. And if we're doing that, then everybody has to be able to shoot that on the floor. going to your idea of the shooting games, the green, yellow, red games, I completely agree. Like our skill work, especially for shooting, is 80 to 90% shooting games that involve speed and pressure. Why do shooters miss shots in games? They practice too slow and they practice without pressure. Well, they got to do that on their own. Good luck with that. Like they're
Right.
going to put the driveway and give themselves pressure. No. So we have to do that. So instead of volume, we'll do shooting games. We have standards for every game and we do charting. Charting can be done in different ways. It can be writing things down. It can also be raise your hand if you made 10 or more. All right, keep it up 15 or more, and you see hands drop. That's charting. But green, we have a green, yellow, red game. And the very first time we play it, I let them know this does not mean who is allowed to shoot and who can't shoot. If you're a red shooter, and especially on the JV teams, you're still allowed to shoot sevens or open threes. But what the green, yellow, red does, and it's a 4 minutes, 9 spots, 10 shots at a spot. You got to get to 90. If you don't get your 90 attempts, it doesn't even count.
Okay.
But our 45 and above, you're green light. And we celebrate that with snaps. The 35 to 44, you're yellow. And those typically do tend to be your streaky shooters that, coach, if you made 2 back in the day, you could probably make 4 or 5. But if you missed your first couple, and maybe not, and because of your own, not you, but their own confidence makes that holds them back. And then our red light shooters. And so, but what we do is we do that once a week and we chart it. And we see, our goal is just to see growth, small growth over time. Get everybody out of that red into yellow. Those yellows starting to get into greens. But I do tell them that if they do get into that green light arena, they can miss 9 and they better shoot the next one. There's no off night.
Yep.
And so there is a draw for them to get to the green. But coach, all of those shooting games and all of the talking and charting, what it does for me is it builds the hierarchy. It role identification. I don't have to tell a kid that's not your shot, or I don't have to tell somebody to move it because they already know I'm okay from here. But golly, that dude just got 69 on green, yellow, red out of 90. And like you said about running to corners and celebrating that, when you start celebrating the hero passes, the one mores, you get more of that.
Absolutely. No, that's good stuff. I like that. I might need that drill from you.
Yeah, green, yellow, red, and we have a championship belt that they get for it. Like it's kind of one of the bigger ones. But the getting to 90 part, coach, that's where like day one, the first week we did it, I think I had only half the guys finished. So I thought about, do I punish them if they don't get to 90? Well, that's not really our culture. We rarely run. I have towel pushes if they're a second late, but it's more standards than like I don't want. It's that same way with I don't really like to make them run for losing. I don't want to equate running and losing. We run to win. So push-ups are better in my opinion. But half of them couldn't get to 90. And so what I found is but next to their name and the date when we're going down, whatever their score is, even if it's a red light, they have to say it with confidence and they have to say it in a leadership voice. Cause you'll get the 24. And so you gotta, no, say it again. So we go through that. If they don't get to 90, I told them you have to say first, didn't make it. So the didn't make it part means that I put a line there, but then I still want to know what the number was. Years ago, I wasn't holding them to 90 and they were all slowing down with the idea of I'll make more. Well, we start training for speed day one. And I said, shoot faster than was comfortable without sacrificing your form. And in order to do that, though, there's going to be more misses. So getting to 90, didn't make it, what's your number? And then we move. They hate seeing that slash. I did all the work and I don't get credit for it. And I think that's enough of a motivation. But initially it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of like the more I make, the less my rebounders have to move, the quicker my shots come. Yeah. So these dudes that are clanking it, it's going to be hard to make it, but hopefully over time. But I agree with you. Don't hold shooters to that, because you and I have probably seen this over time through skill work and courage. Players will surprise you and they'll hit shots in big moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of the quotes I always go back to, I think it was Nick Saban. It might've been Bill Belichick, but he said, I'm not going to say the word, but basically forget the result. Yeah. Sometimes if everything is looking good, it's what you want, but the shot doesn't go in, you still need to praise that. So that's something we try to do. We're going to celebrate, hey, this is the look we want, just didn't fall. So what? Great possession. So forget the result. Something I say to my guys quite a bit. Everything looked good. We did what we were supposed to. It's not going to go in every time. That doesn't mean we stop taking that shot. So it kind of hits on the point you're talking about.
Coach, I think how you deal with shot selection is directly tied to your overall culture of your program. I'm not saying that you can do shot selection wrong and you don't have a good culture. Maybe, like it's possible, but I do think like the way that you talk about that, you're probably talking about other standards in a similar way.
Yeah.
Because how could we be free flowing and focus on standards, but then yet in this one we're very strict and you're not allowed to fail here. Oh, we're about the process, guys, but accepting shot selection.
Right.
You better not miss any shots when we play, or else you're coming out. So I think those two things, like you tell me your shot selection plan with your program, and I think I have a pretty good idea of what your overall culture could be like.
No, that's a great point. I think oftentimes if there's like animosity between players or tension, I think a lot of that is kind of due to shot selection. So I think defining that, letting people know what shot is good and is okay, it kind of takes that tension away, because so many times a player will get mad at a certain guy for taking a shot, but if it's well defined that that's a good shot, it kind of just takes all the pressure off that. It's just who you are, and hey, good shot next time. So it kind of helps in that regard too, I think, at least from my experience.
Yeah. And a great way to reinforce that too is in your film sessions, show misses. I think you said something about that. And a great game that I like to play is it a 7? Played it at PGC a little bit. It's kind of a mean game. In the very last game that we played at Point Guard College, it's called Highlight. And it's continuous 5-on-5, and you go, and there's all these rules. But if a player would take what we call a 6, a contested jump shot, or even a 7, a wide open 3, but they'd like maybe miss it really bad or something, we'd stop it, and like in a game show voice, we'd say, "Is it a 7?" And they have to shoot 10 of those. Okay. And if they made 7 or more, then it's technically a 7, a shot that they should take.
Yeah.
I saw it happen. I don't really I thought it was kind of mean. I get the point, but I think Is It a 7 is a good game to play in practice with you or in film, because when a guy shoots it as the ball is up in the air, you pause it and you say, "Guys, is it a 7?" and have them rate it. Most of the time the 7s are pretty obvious. The 6s and 7s can be vague. The 6s are very obvious. Like by them, when it's by itself, but then play it. Sometimes they make a 6. And the point is like, guys, does that mean though that it was a good shot? And you got to get them past that. No, that's not the goal. Blind squirrels find nuts. Like, we're not trying to play like that. So, but then the 7, when you play it and they miss it, pause it. Does that change anything? No, coach, it's a 7. I think like we've been talking about this a lot, reframing how they view success on the offensive end, I think is really important, especially if you're trying to do a conceptual style offense like you are.
Yeah. We'll do that exact thing with entire possessions. All right, guys, watch this possession. Were we playing with pace? Did we move the ball? Did we cut with purpose? And then, like you said, freeze it right before that shot, or right when it leaves the hands. They don't remember if the shot goes in or not, but it doesn't matter. We did what we were supposed to. Sometimes it's going to go in, sometimes it's not. We can feel good about that possession. So we do a ton of that type of work in our film rooms as well.
Coach, before I get you out of here, I want to go through the speed round. These will be quick questions. First thing that pops in your head, I just blurt it out.
Yeah.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh, I'm a vanilla guy, and my wife criticizes me all the time. So
no
if she
toppings.
listens to this, which she will, she'll be like, "Of course you said vanilla." But I just skip vanilla. I don't know. Like, I'll eat other kinds, but with ice cream,
live a little, coach. Come on.
If mix it up, we'll go cookies and cream.
There you go. Greatest shooter of all time.
Steph Curry. Just the difficulty of the shots he has to take alone.
The Olympics. Those last 2 minutes.
It's incredible.
Olympics.
It's incredible. I mean, he looked off the 2 best players, right, of this generation to take a triple team. Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. I think hands down. Other shooters have better percentage, whatever, but degree of difficulty and just having to work for those shots, I don't even think it's close.
Nope. Favorite superhero?
I'll say Superman.
Top 3 dinner guests, any across any time period?
Oh wow. That's a fantastic question. So I'm a huge like history nerd. I love like the 60s. So like I think sitting down with JFK would be extremely
Oh, yeah.
fascinating. From a basketball side, I would love to talk to John Wooden. I think that would just be fantastic. For a third guest, it's a great question. I probably would like want to sit down with my grandfather, that who I never got to meet, and just learn about that side of the family and that sort of thing. So that would encompass like my history nerd side, basketball, and family. So that's probably
That's good. Best basketball movie of all time?
a really good question. Coach Carter always gets me, but I'm not sure I would go with that one. Glory Road is a really good movie.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that one. I'll say Glory Road.
For high school, shot clock or no shot clock?
100% we need a shot clock. If there's anything I tweet about more than anything, it's that. It's just we have to modernize our game. It's critical. It's better for development, better for flow. I forget how many states have it now, but in Wisconsin,
I think it's close to half.
yeah, it's definitely improving. Unfortunately, I live in a state where I think we're going to be the last one. It just feels that way. If you can get it in all these other states, I don't know why we can't get it, but it just improves the game, improves players. It's just so much better for everyone involved.
And this isn't a competition between Milwaukee and Texas, but there's all the cities that are down here and the players. I think there was 5 NBA players in the draft that were from Texas in some way. It's just the basketball. It's great in every state, but at these higher levels down here, that with these nationally ranked teams, we have like, come on, like
I know it makes no sense.
Favorite holiday?
I will go with Christmas. My birthday's in the same month. I just love that time of year, the family time, the festive nature, usually snowing a little bit, which I don't mind too much.
You guys get real snow up there. Down here, I'm actually from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So I know real snow.
Yeah.
These people, they don't know.
No.
Coach, we preemptively cancel school down here. Like if there's a few days out, hey, they say there might be snow, we cancel it before it ever gets here. And or even like I remember in Pennsylvania waking up at maybe 5 o'clock in the morning and looking at the TV like, "Ooh, are they going to do it today?" Like we didn't even know yet. Yeah, and it's coming down. Like I see it. It's not even here.
It's funny.
It'll be 75 and sunny, and we're just sitting at home. Like it's insane. Sorry.
It's funny. Yeah. So when I was in grad school at Florida State, I taught, and I had an 8 a.m. class, and there was like, it was December or January, and there was like 55 degrees. And so there was like a little bit of frost on the windshield. And I had several students late because they had never used the defroster before. So I was just like, okay, I'm from a different part of the country.
That's right.
This would not cause any issues. So it's just really funny. But yeah, I would say Christmas. It's just a great time of year.
What book would you give someone?
My favorite book and probably the biggest impact on me is called Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrman, if you've heard of that one. Yep. I read it when I was just starting to coach. I don't know, 24 years old, maybe something like that. I reference that book all the time. Just frames my philosophy. I think it's relevant to anyone, not just coaching, anyone that has a responsibility to other people to be a servant leader. That's what I would go to. That's the best book out there, I think.
Yeah, he had a point in that about if somebody would ask him how his team was going to be, he would say, "I'll tell you in 20 years." It read really cool. And coach, I've tried it. I've tried that. Just in the way I think I delivered it, it just came off kind of like snarky. Like, hey, how's your team going to be? I'll tell you in 20 years. Yeah, I think I delivered it wrong. And they're like kind of looking at me like jerk. But I love the idea, though, of not just success in our wins and losses now, but the success that they have in their relationships as employees in 20 years. Man, let's be judged on that.
Yeah, very powerful.
2 more. Favorite place to travel?
I really fell in love with Ireland. So went out there a year and a half ago. That's my heritage. I think it's just beautiful. Really fun people out there. So that's probably been my favorite spot. And if I could go anywhere, still really interested in Australia and Israel. Those would be my 2 places that I want to hit at some point.
Last one, probably the most important. In basketball as a player, who's the GOAT?
Michael Jordan is. And I was pretty young during his heyday, but it's funny. I actually have a blog post out there. This is probably like 8 years old now, 6 years old, something like that. I went really detailed, in depth about teammates and who they were playing and all these advanced stats. And even though LeBron is still playing at an insane level, I think Jordan just impact in both ends of the floor. And it's not just those two, but that tends to be the debate. But I'll go with Michael Jordan.
Yeah, I think there needs to be just different levels to the question. Like there's the greatest of all time. There's the maybe greatest career of all time. There's your favorite of all time, because my favorite player is actually Pistol Pete. But then maybe even the most dominant, because I had somebody mention Shaq as the GOAT. And I was like, I get it. Like, there's never been anything like him. Maybe Wilt was the first version of that, but I think Shaq was at another level with his ball handling and
it's so much preference. I mean, some people will eliminate centers right away because they're not handling the ball. So a little bit's preference, but I think if you look at everything, I would still say Michael Jordan.
I think he's got like a bit of it all. And watch The Last Dance anyway. But Coach,
Absolutely.
this was so enjoyable, man. And this is what I love about basketball. What I love about getting to do this is you and I are exact opposite ends of the country, you know, north and south, and don't have a relationship. But man, there's a lot of similarities with how we look at the game, and it's always fun just getting to see how other coaches do things, and just really appreciate you giving up your time. This was fun.
No, thank you so much. Like I said, always enjoy talking basketball. Thank you for what you do. Fantastic stuff. Love talking hoops. So for anyone listening, if I can help in any way, I'm happy to share my book. Anything analytics that I've prepared in the past, if that's something you're interested in, always happy to share. And I'm happy to give out my cell phone, email address, whatever. Follow me on Twitter. Great way to get a hold of me. Whatever we can do to grow the game and help you with what you're looking for, happy to help. At _ Andy Fitzgerald. So just my name with the underscore in front of it. Andy Fitzgerald 0 at Gmail is my email account. But yeah, I'm on Twitter a lot. So if you reach out there, I'll definitely get back to you.
Awesome, Coach. Thank you so much, man.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the JAMODI podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.